Hey everybody, Adam here with Hometown Acres. Welcome back. Today I want to give you guys my first impressions of the LS MT357 now that we have put about 25 hours on it. Now I completely understand that 25 hours is not a ton of time to be doing a review, so this is not going to be I've owned this tractor for 20 years and have 10,000 hours on it and it's never broken down a day in its life. The point of this video is to give you an idea of how you might be feeling about this tractor if you had just purchased it a month or two ago and have about 25 hours on it. Now, as most of you know, LS has provided this tractor to us. We've partnered with LS. But what I also want you to know is I take the responsibility of reviewing this tractor very seriously. I know that at any given point in time, LS could come pick this tractor up, and what I would be left with is you guys, my audience. And so I don't want to betray your trust by buttering this thing up and making it look better than it actually is. Because at the end of the day, if it wasn't for you guys watching the videos and your trust in me to review stuff, LS probably wouldn't have picked me to send this tractor to use. The other good thing about all of this is that LS is on board with me sharing my true thoughts and feelings about this tractor. I wouldn't have partnered with a company that was going to try to control what I was going to say. So LS is on board. I'm on board, and hopefully you guys are too. So without further ado, let's jump into what I like about this tractor and things that I think could be improved on after using it for just 25 hours. All right, so let's start with what I like about this tractor. So first and foremost, and I've talked about this in the few videos that we've used it already, this is an upgrade for me from a 35 horse compact tractor to a 57 horse tractor. And what you get with that extra horsepower and a larger frame size is a ton more lifting, pushing, and pulling power. So, you know, if you're comparing this to other brands, it might be comparable, but if you're stepping up from a smaller tractor, the difference in power is just amazing. So that's the first thing that I really like about this tractor is it almost eliminates the need for a skid loader for me. That was something I was thinking about when I was looking into these tractors was, do I need a larger tractor or do I just need a skid loader? And this thing, with the amount that it can lift, it's still not as much as a skid loader, and it's not going to grade, you know, earth as well as a skid loader would. But for what I'm doing, this replaces the need for me to upgrade to a skid loader for about 95% of the tasks that I would want a skid loader for. So let's hop up here into the cab and we'll talk about a lot of the things that I like on the inside, because let's be honest, the reason you get a tractor like this is for the cab. Now, as we step up in here, there is a lot of room in this cab. One thing that I really like is these windows here on the side that pop open like that. Allows you to get a lot of ventilation here, because this is basically a giant greenhouse. Even on a day like today where it's 40 degrees out and the sun is out, you do not need the heat in this cab. The sunlight coming in is enough to keep it. I mean, it's probably 65, 70 degrees in here with the tractor off. And so, you know, you can imagine on a 50, 60 degree day, you could get by with just popping these windows open, and also the back window. There's a little lever here. And I've seen other people on YouTube talk about they don't like to leave this window open while they are brush hogging or, you know, in travel, because they feel like this window is just flopping around. But these gas struts on here and everything really keep this window nice and tight. I would have no problem leaving that window open while driving the tractor. I feel like that's very sturdy. So yeah, good ventilation here. I mean, obviously you can also still open up both doors while you're driving too. You just need to really be careful that, you know, you don't get too close to anything on the sides and rip those doors off. So that is kind of the cab. Things that I really like about this tractor in terms of the transmission is this transmission just falls into gear very easily. It's almost kind of satisfying to shift gears in this because it just pops in and out. Speaking of shifting in and out, another thing that I really like is this tractor, the four-wheel drive, pops in and out of four-wheel drive a lot easier than my old tractor. My old tractor, the front differential would often get in a bind shifting in and out of four-wheel drive, and what I would usually have to do is lower my loader onto the ground, pick the front tires up to allow them to kind of recoil and get back in line with each other before it would allow me to shift out of four-wheel drive. This one, I have not had that problem. You know, usually I might have to turn the wheel straight and drive 5 or 10 feet to get it to pop out of four-wheel drive, but other than that, I don't have to throw the loader on the ground and lift the front tires off to get it to shift out of four-wheel drive. So whatever they did here with the transmission, definitely a big improvement. Now, speaking of the transmission, this is a hydrostat, so it's got the twin pedals here. So really the only time you're shifting gears is if you're changing the type of work that you're doing. You know, first gear you'd be using to pull into a pile of rock or dirt. Second gear you're using to kind of do some loader work. And third gear you're using to get around from point A to point B pretty quickly. The thing that I like about this transmission it is a true 3-range transmission. And what I mean by that is my old Coyote was a 35 horse and it had 3 ranges, low, medium, and high, same as this one, except they call it 1, 2, and 3 on the LS. The only thing is though, is I found that I really only ever used 2 of those gears because it didn't quite have enough power at 35 horse to use that high range gear unless you were on flat pavement. Whereas this thing, I actually use the 3 range quite a bit getting around the property here. You know, we're pretty hilly. If you look down our driveway, pretty good hill coming up here. I can come up the driveway in 3 on this tractor, and on my old Coyote, 35 horse just wasn't enough to do it. So I really only used 1 and 2, and on this one, I use 1, 2, and 3. And being 57 horse, I find that I can do a lot of things in the second range on this tractor that I would have to put it into low gear on the Coyote to use. Again, that's not a Coyote versus LS thing. That is a 35 horse versus 57 horse tractor thing. Now, one thing that might be a Coyote thing is that on my old Coyote CK3510, the hydrostat pedals would stick occasionally. My buddy came over here actually one time and he said, "Hey, I like that cruise control on your Coyote," you know, joking because, you know, if you push the pedal down, you can see on this LS when you let off, they go back to 0. Whereas on my Coyote, they would stick. And if you're not careful and you're backing up close to, you know, say a garage door to pull some gravel away and you've got your backup pedal going and you let off and it stays there, you could back into a garage door. So what I like about this tractor is I don't have any of that pedal sticking. When I let off the pedal, the tractor comes to a stop immediately, which is very nice. So let's go ahead and close these doors here real quick, because even though it's getting to be about 50 degrees out today, it is pretty breezy. All the windows are very easy to close. So I mentioned before, I'm at about 25 hours. So if we turn the key, you'll see I'm actually at right around 26. Yeah, just a little over 26. So let's talk about regen. So this tractor kind of surprised me. It regened at 7 hours, and then it regened just a little bit ago at 25 hours. So I know on my old Coyote, it was like clockwork. It seemed like at about 35 hours, it would regen. And this one seems to be doing it more often. I don't know if that's because it's new and it's breaking in. So we'll have to just continue to monitor. Again, I don't have a lot of data to gather yet. I've only got 25 hours on it to see what the regen cycle seems like it's going to be. But so far what I've noticed is it regened at 7 hours. And that first regen, I will say, it took probably 30 minutes. And then the second one that it just regened at 25 hours only was about 5 minutes. So I know my Coyote usually is about 10 to 15 minutes of a regen. So far we're higher than that and also lower than that. So again, I can't really give you too much information on the regen here because we've gotten 2 very different results. One at 7 hours, one at 25. One took a half hour, one took 5 minutes. Now the whole regen thing with the diesel particulate filters and all that, it's not a deal breaker for me. I mean, the 25 horse compact tractor market is huge because that is under the requirements for requiring diesel particulate filters. To me, it's a slight annoyance. You know, when we talk about the regen taking 10-15 minutes versus a half an hour versus 5 minutes, you know, the worst case scenario is it happens right as you're getting ready to shut the tractor off and you got to let it run for an extra 20-30 minutes. So it's a slight annoyance in that regard, but a lot of times it will regen while I'm using the tractor. I always love it whenever it regens while I'm brush hogging or something and I'm running high RPMs anyway, so I don't feel like I'm wasting any additional diesel to let it do its thing. But you know, it is annoying whenever it does it right as you're getting ready to shut her down for the day and you got to let it run and waste fuel for another 20-30 minutes. So again, not a big deal. It's just a slight annoyance. It's kind of like greasing the excavator or greasing the tractor. It's annoying to do it. It takes 5-10 minutes, but I always feel good after it's done because I know I've got another 8 to 10 hours before I've got to do it again. So it's one of those things that you don't look forward to, but you look forward to having it done. I guess that's a good analogy for it. Another thing I've noticed in the first 25 hours of running this tractor is the loader bleed off is significantly less. I know with my 35 horse tractor, if I leave the loader arms up in the air and shut the tractor off, it's not more than a couple hours before those loader arms are down on the ground. Whereas this thing, you could leave this thing overnight with the loader arms up in the air and they might drop a couple of inches. So that hydraulic bleed off is significantly less in this tractor. I don't know if that has anything to do with the pump, the cylinders being bigger, but that's just one thing I've noticed. Not a big deal, but where that might come into play is if you're using your pallet forks for a workbench or something like that, and you want to shut the tractor off and you don't want your workbench to be on the ground in an hour or two. It's kind of nice that this thing, you can park it, have the arms up in the air, and it'll pretty much stay there. It still bleeds off a little bit, but not nearly as bad as my other tractor. All right, guys, so that is about everything I can think of that has really stood out to me so far about this tractor that I like. Now let's talk about some of the things that I think can be improved upon. And some of them are right here in the cab. So if we flip the camera around, a lot of the things I'm going to mention are ergonomic. So the first one is, as you can see up above me, where your head sits as you're sitting in the chair is nice and flat and open. So I have plenty of headroom here, but it tapers down for that air conditioning compressor up top there. And, you know, one thing with a cab tractor versus an open station tractor is your visibility is reduced quite a bit to see over your hood. On my open station tractor, I would just stand up and look over the hood to see the tips of my forks to know if I was getting into the pallet. But in a cab tractor, you can't do that because you've got this ceiling. And one thing that I've found out the hard way is when I would try to stand up to look over the hood of the tractor, I hit my head on this. Probably for the first 2 weeks I owned it quite a bit just because I was used to standing up and looking over the hood. And what I've kind of learned to do now is to lean over to the side. And if you look right there, you can see the tips of the forks on the tractor. What I would like to see, and again, how I think this could be improved, would be to somehow make the roof here flat so that you have this entire headroom all the way to the front windshield so you could continue to lean forward and look over the hood of the tractor this way. Obviously, you'd have to sacrifice making the tractor taller to do that because instead of having all of this stored inside the tractor, you now have to raise the roof up higher to do that. So you would lose the ability to probably park it in some garages to do that. So I get why they did it, to lower the profile of the tractor so it could fit in certain garage doors. But yeah, just something I noticed there. Ergonomics, I hit my head on that a lot when I first got the tractor. Second thing that kind of bothers me is the location of the parking brake. So this tractor does have armrests, which I love. My old tractor did not have armrests, but they buried that parking brake underneath this armrest. So every time you want to get on and off the tractor, you have to lift your armrest and then get down here to undo the parking brake. Now this has been more of an issue as of late because it's wintertime, and so I've usually got a heavy jacket on that my arm can't fit down here, but I think, you know, with just a sweatshirt or a t-shirt on, I can actually fit my arm in around the armrest to get to the parking brake. So that might not be an issue in the summertime. In the wintertime, it is. Where I would have liked to have seen them put the parking brake is somewhere up here on the dash. I've seen other manufacturers, you step on the brake, pull a lever down, and it locks the parking brake in, or in between or underneath the steering wheel here, something like that. Just a little easier to get to than having to adjust your armrest all the time. Another thing that bothers me is not LS specific. I think every tractor manufacturer does this, but they require you to put the tractor into neutral and set the parking brake before you get out. And I think most of us can agree that as an experienced operator, if you know you're parked on flat ground and you're on and off the tractor a lot, it's a lot easier to just leave the tractor in gear, not have to set the parking brake, hop in and out. And, you know, if you got to adjust your forks or if you're switching attachments and undo your skid steer quick attach on your front loader, I get it. It's a safety thing. It's to keep people from getting out and having the tractor start rolling and possibly running them over or rolling into a garage while there's no operator on there. But if you're experienced and you know you're on a hill, you got to set the parking brake. You use it when you need it, not just because the tractor will start beeping at you. Just to show you, so when you turn the tractor on, yep, see, I have it in gear right now, so it's beeping at me. As soon as I put it in neutral, it turns off. And if I take the parking brake off, it starts beeping at me as well. So every time you get out of the tractor, you know, say I'm in gear, you have to put it in neutral, set the parking brake, and then get out. And then when you get back in, put it in gear, take the parking brake off. It's just a couple of steps you got to do every time you get on and off the tractor. Whereas, like I said, if you're on flat ground, it's a lot easier to just get on, get off. I know I'm kind of trying to fight City Hall on that one. Nobody's actually going to make that change because of the safety liability reasons, but let me know in the comments below if some of that safety stuff bothers you guys. Okay, so I think that covers just about everything inside the cab here. There's a couple of things on the outside of the tractor that I want to talk about that I don't particularly care for. The first thing being the cab lights. Gotta be LEDs. They're still putting halogen bulbs in these, as are most tractor manufacturers. You know, as soon as everybody gets these things home, the first thing they're going to do is swap out those lights and put in LEDs, because these things, you can see a little bit, but they just don't give you enough visibility to be confident that you're not going to run into something. You know, you can really only see 10, 15, 20 feet ahead of you. It'd be nice to be able to see, you know, 30 feet, 40 feet around you. So yeah, just, I feel like it wouldn't cost that much money to put LED bulbs in the cab lights and just have everybody be happier. The last thing I want to mention that my old tractor actually did have that this one does not is this shroud for your PTO shaft is not on a hinge. And so it can be kind of tight getting, you know, your PTO hooked up there to run any implements. On my Coyote, it was a hinge, so you could actually swing it up out of the way and give yourself a little bit more room to get your hands in there to hook up your PTO shaft. Anyways, guys, that is how we are feeling about the LS MT357 after the first 25 hours. Overall, very, very happy with the tractor, with a few small things I would change if I could. Obviously, still not a lot of time yet. There's a lot of things we're still going to continue to learn about this tractor. Heck, we haven't really even used any attachments that use the PTO on the tractor yet. So still a lot of things left to learn. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, give me a big thumbs up, click that subscribe button, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.